The Baltimore Ravens got themselves a victory over the Chicago Bears yesterday, and now they are seen as the favorites to win the AFC North. And the Pittsburgh Steelers took a loss, which strengthens their chances. And I did map out a pathway a few weeks ago that I'm going to review on today's episode. And lastly, before we get up out of here on today's episode, we got to talk about Myles Garrett's frustrations with the Browns mounting to a place to where we can't feel sorry for Myles Garrett. Yeah, I know we going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hit the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, NFL fans? Welcome back in to another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm bringing you all some good storylines to talk about on this beautiful day. So if you tuned in, love talking football, regardless of who you root for, make sure you tune in and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, when we talk this thing off and get this thing rolling, we got to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, who yesterday went and faced off versus the Chicago Bears, who came into Baltimore winning 4 straight. And they pretty much whooped on the Chicago Bears. When you talk about the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams did not have a great game. The defense, they did a little bit better than the offense, but there was still some struggles. Chicago Bears special teams just wasn't good enough. And Caleb Williams, he had a horrible day. And when you are the Chicago Bears and you have opportunities to cash in and score touchdowns, you absolutely have to do so. And as for the last few weeks, the Chicago Bears in the red zone have not been able to do that. And the Baltimore Ravens with Snoop Huntley was able to come out there, shut the Chicago Bears down pretty much, and then go out there and win the football game. It is an impressive win for the Baltimore Ravens, and because they scored 30 points while the Chicago Bears scored only 16. And prior to their bye week, the Baltimore Ravens held a Los Angeles Rams team to just 17 points. And while all those things are being considered right now, hey, the Baltimore Ravens, they took care of business and they held 2 offenses that have been known throughout this season to score points to low point totals in their matchup. And I think that for the Baltimore Ravens now being listed as the favorite to win the AFC North, it says a lot about what the expectation is for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. On the Pittsburgh Steelers side, you look at the entire thing and you say, hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers had some leeway and had some opportunities to go out there and provide some space between themselves and the Baltimore Ravens and other teams within their division. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming off Thursday night loss, a couple weeks ago, they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Flacco, who just recently got to the team. And Joe Flacco and those Bengals just lost to the New York Jets yesterday, 39-38. And then you look at last night for the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night, after having a decent lead. I believe they had like 19-9 at some point versus the Green Bay Packers or something along those lines, to where they had a lead going, coming out of the second half, coming out of the first half into the second half. The Pittsburgh Steelers had a decent lead over the Green Bay Packers, but then ultimately their defense has been so bad, they allowed the Green Bay Packers to go on a tear and win the game, which closes the gap between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Now the Baltimore Ravens sit at a decent spot to where they let Snoop Huntley come out there and had him ready, had him prepared. John Harbaugh, coming out of the bye week, had his team ready and able to go out there. And now it looks like the Baltimore Ravens are primed to go on a run now that the expectations in that Thursday night matchup versus the Miami Dolphins, it looks like Lamar Jackson will be back. It looks like the Baltimore Ravens will be good and primed to reel off a couple games, whether people like it or not. a couple weeks ago, I also came on and I said there is a pathway for the Baltimore Ravens to go out there and punch their ticket into the playoffs, regardless of a bad start to where they had a couple leads in the fourth quarter and had a couple games kind of sealed up, but then they obviously dropped the ball that led them to what their record is right now. That pathway was beating the Chicago Bears, then facing the Miami Dolphins, then looking at Minnesota, Cleveland, the Jets, and Cincinnati within their next few games. And it looks like the Baltimore Ravens, as experienced as this team in, could be on a nice winning streak when it's all said and done in a matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in December. Again, those teams are Miami, Minnesota, Cleveland, the Jets, and Cincinnati. If you telling me that these guys can't go out there and win these next few games, I believe that you are crazy. Obviously, no games are handed to a team on any given game day, but I think that the Baltimore Ravens will wake up, and there is a good reason why the Baltimore Ravens are the favorites to win the NFC North, and they should be the favorites to win the NFC North, in my opinion, regardless of the record that they currently have. You know what I mean? And we looking at the next three games with Miami, Minnesota, and Cleveland. These teams have major problems. So by the time they go out there and face the Jets, they can be 5-5. I'm gonna pick them to beat the Jets. That'll be 6-5. And then they go out there and face the Cincinnati Bengals. That'll be 7-5 before they match up versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in December. So regardless of how we feel about the team right now, or at least coming out of the bye week versus the Chicago Bears, the Baltimore Ravens look like they can string together some victories. And while the Baltimore Ravens are going to go through kind of like a light, like when, no game is easy in the NFL, but they're going into a lighter stretch versus, other teams, while the Pittsburgh Steelers road to victory or to stacking some victories is going to get tougher with the Pittsburgh Steelers now getting ready to face off versus a hot Indianapolis Colts team, a good Los Angeles Chargers team before getting their rematch versus Cincy, then playing the Chicago Bears, then playing Buffalo, then Baltimore, again with that matchup being December 7th. So I'm not mad at the idea of having the Baltimore Ravens as the favorite to win the AFC North. It means a lot to those guys in Baltimore, and it makes a lot of sense to me of having these guys go out there and win versus these teams that they have coming up. So we shall see what happens. Obviously, things change week to week in the NFL, and we'll see what happens as the Baltimore Ravens move forward. Now, before we get up out of here, I want to talk about Myles Garrett frustration mounting with the Browns. And it's crazy to think about Myles Garrett frustration simply because anytime you have your best player on the team, especially a defensive player, go out there and have 5 sacks by himself, a lot of the times the team with that said player goes out there and win the damn game. But the Browns lost because their offense is so terrible. And I held Kevin Stefanski in high regard at one point coming into this season, but that is long gone. I think Kevin Stefanski is making the worst decisions ever, at least this point in time when it comes to his offense. And he's on the verge of getting himself fired simply because he's being stupid with his decisions. This was something that me and my co-host talk about coming into this season, that Dillon Gabriel should not even be considered as being the guy for the Cleveland Browns. But to some point, we understood it in saying that Dillon Gabriel, hey, they selected him third in the third round. They're going to give him a shot. But we knew that the better damn quarterback is Shedeur Sanders, regardless of how you look at it. He looks so miniature out there. He looks like he can't push the ball down the field, and teams are just loading up on the Cleveland Browns to stop the run because we know that's what Kevin Stefanski is trying to do. And while he's wasting everybody's time, including his time, he has his best player out there frustrated with the state of the offense because Kevin Stefanski is ruining every opportunity to put the best quarterback out there. And you sitting here and tell me that Shedeur Sanders still is not going to receive any reps? Hell, Bailey Zappi What the hell? I know what Bailey Zappi is, but you're not giving the best guy on the team an opportunity to prove himself simply because you're trying to justify taking Dylan Gabriel, who is a miniature quarterback and can't push the football down the field. Yesterday, we seen the game. We was told that Dylan Gabriel is just a fast processor of the football game, and he has not showed that whatsoever. But that is not where I want to go ultimately with this discussion. Where I want to go now is talking about Myles Garrett and his frustration building with the Cleveland Browns. I get it, Myles Garrett. You should be frustrated with the state of the Cleveland Browns. However, you brought this on yourself, Myles Garrett. You literally requested a trade a few days later, signed a major deal. You should have stood on business and executed or tried to force the Cleveland Browns to get you the hell out of that putrid franchise. Again, I always feel bad for the Cleveland Brown fans because their owner, the head coach, and the damn GM are never on the same page and they do a bunch of dumb stuff. That is the facts. And Myles Garrett, you can be frustrated. You can go out there and throw your helmet as much as you want. But this is what you asked for when you signed a new deal with this team, when you knew that there is going to be changes at the quarterback position coming. Because Deshaun Watson, before you signed that deal, had a setback with his injury. So you knew that there was going to be a young quarterback in trying to lead you guys to some victories on the season. But yet, you still signed the deal. So no one's going to feel sorry for Myles Garrett. You brought this on yourself because you didn't stand on business. You see, Micah Parsons, when Micah Parsons requested that trade, I came out here on this microphone and said, Micah Parsons, if you requesting a trade, stand on business. Micah Parsons, he stood on business. Now he's with a better franchise who has an opportunity to have a deep playoff run. Myles Garrett, you made the request to go out there and be traded, but you didn't stand on business. You took the munyon and you're still in NFL hell with the Cleveland Browns. So this is all on you, brother. This is all on you, Myles Garrett. Nobody else to be mad at but yourself. I get it. I can never sit there and tell a man not to accept over $40 million per year. I can never do that. But what I can say is when you do take that money, there's some things that you're going to have to deal with because you didn't fully consider the damn situation and who is your manager or your agent who did not tell you, or if he did tell you, you completely ignored it and still signed that deal. You could have got $40 million everywhere else and placed yourself in a better situation. The same thing can be said for you as the same thing we could be saying for Max Crosby, who took extra money to play in black and silver, and they look like a dumpster fire as well. So you can't be mad at nobody else but yourself, bro. That's just what it comes down to. You cannot be mad at nobody else but yourself for accepting this situation. That's what it is. No one's gonna feel sorry for Myles Garrett. You getting paid big bucks. You signed up for that. You should have stood on business because when you requested a trade, you did it at a great time, in my personal opinion. You did it before the NFL draft. And if you would have stood on business, you could have been moved. The Browns could have got some assets, and then everybody would have been good, fine, and dandy and moved on in the right direction. Green Bay Packers gave up 2 first-round picks. You don't think a franchise is gonna give up 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett? They absolutely will. And if they did not offer the 2 first-round picks, they will be crazy because in my evaluation, what my eyes tells me is that Myles Garrett is much better than Micah Parsons. That's what my eyes tell me. That's not to say that Micah Parsons is not a good player, but him going for 2 first-round picks, Myles Garrett absolutely could have went for 2 first-round picks. Absolutely went for 2 first-round picks. But hey, you brought this on yourself. You could have been out of this situation and still been paid handsomely, but you elected to stay. What has this franchise done for you since you've been there? Yeah, you on your way to Hall of Fame, but what have they done? This is why we have those conversations. A lot of us sports fans be like, bro, We know that is you don't want to leave money on the floor. We know you want to get paid handsomely, but we also know that what makes the money feel even better is when you're winning alongside getting paid well. And though you are getting paid well, you're not winning because your competitive spirit says that you're ass. You're trash. So while you go and collect your game check on that Sunday, whatever game day is that you collect your check, you still have to stomach the thought that we suck. Nobody else to blame but yourself, brother. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of NFL Central. Before y'all get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football, and y'all already know we're going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
This has been a presentation of